I missed my daughter so much that when I opened my eyes and saw her lying in bed, tears of joy streamed down my face. Even though her face was covered in pockmarks and she was burning with fever, her condition appearing dire. In my previous life, at this very moment, I had fed her medicine. Soon after, she began vomiting uncontrollably, her condition deteriorating rapidly. By the time the physician arrived, it was already too late. Upon examination, the doctor discovered that my daughter's medicine had been swapped with something else. The new concoction was too harsh, aggravating her illness instead of curing it. That was when Bai Lin Lin, my husband's newly taken concubine, came bouncing in to claim credit. I replaced Yushan's medicine with a folk remedy from my village. How about that? Pretty effective, isn't it? Overcome with grief, I flew into a rage and slapped her across the face. You swapped Yushan's medicine? You've killed her. Bai Lin Lin, stung and wronged, protested, how could that be? Everyone in my village drinks this when they catch a chill. What chill? Yushan has the pox. Oh. Well, it shouldn't be a problem, right? Medicine doesn't kill people. I closed my eyes, drew back my arm, and struck her again. Then I ordered my servants, seize her. We're going to the authorities. I want her to pay with her life. My husband and mother-in-law arrived soon after. My husband blocked my way. Lin Lin meant well. It was an accident. If you report her, won't that break her heart? As the first wife, you really ought to be more magnanimous. My mother-in-law was even more cutting. Yushan was always frail. If a little medicine could finish her off, she wasn't long for this world anyway. A girl, dead is dead. Don't stir up trouble in the household. Later, Bai Lin Lin suggested I raise the servants' monthly wages. When I refused, she spread rumors throughout the household that I treated servants like dirt and was planning to cut everyone's pay. The servants came to despise me. They banded together, isolated me, made my life difficult. My husband accused me of cruelty, and my mother-in-law sneered that I couldn't manage a household. I begged for a divorce. I was refused. My own family sent word that if I dared to divorce, they would disown me. Tormented beyond endurance, seeing no way forward, I took a white silk cord and ended my life. Then I opened my eyes again. My maid carried in the swapped medicine. I turned and poured it out, then went to the small kitchen myself to decoct the physician's prescribed remedy. I would protect my daughter. I would keep her far away from Bai Lin Lin. In my past life, I had seen Bai Lin Lin's foolish destructiveness early on. I forbade her from interfering in household affairs and rejected every suggestion she made. My husband and mother-in-law thought I was jealous and couldn't tolerate her. This life, they would taste for themselves just how deadly a fool's bright idea could be. The physician came to see Yushan. After taking the medicine, her fever began to subside. I saw the doctor out. On my way back, I spotted Bai Lin Lin directing a few servants to uproot the herbs in my small garden. Here, and here, all these weeds, pull them up. Plant scallions, chives, and garlic sprouts instead. I reminded her, those aren't weeds. They're medicinal herbs. She blinked, visibly flustered. Ah. I didn't know. Pull them if you like. Herbs can be bought anywhere. Plant whatever you want. Our husband, Shin Yanqing, approached. He frowned at me. Let Lin Lin do as she pleases. Stop picking on her. She's innocent and good-hearted, not versed in the scheming of the inner quarters. And you, stop being so rigid. It's tiresome. In my husband's eyes, Bai Lin Lin was pure of heart and kind of spirit. They had first met at the market. An 80-year-old grandfather was selling vegetables he had grown. Bai Lin Lin, thinking him terribly pitiable, had tugged at Shenyancheng's sleeve. "Young master, this old man is truly wretched. His wife is sick at home. Why don't you buy all his vegetables so he can go take care of her? You look wealthy and noble, surely you wouldn't want to see an old man suffer?" Shenyancheng was charmed by her kindness. One thing led to another, and they became entangled. At first, he kept her outside the household as a mistress. But then she bore him a son, and I had only a daughter, so she was brought into the manor as a concubine. I quickly recognized her nature. She acted without thinking and courted disaster. I kept her on a tight leash, forbidding her from any household affairs and rejecting every proposal she made. My husband and mother-in-law accused me of jealousy, of being unable to tolerate a concubine. They had no idea I was merely trying to prevent catastrophe. Shaking off my reverie, I replied, "You're right, husband. Let Lin Lin plant whatever she likes. These herbs aren't important." What I didn't say was that among them was a crucial ingredient for treating my mother-in-law's heart condition, and it was nearly impossible to find elsewhere. Bai Lin Lin beamed, then turned to me, "Is Yushan better now?" I gave her my village remedy, you know. I clenched my fists, swallowing my hatred. Through gritted teeth, I said, "That remedy worked wonders. Took effect immediately. Please, do share more such excellent folk cures with the household in the future." Under my vigilant watch, Yushan recovered quickly from the pox. I told her to stay away from Bai Lin Lin, but the concubine kept forcing herself into my daughter's presence. One day, I returned from outside the manor and went to my mother-in-law's quarters to fetch my daughter. As I approached the courtyard gate, I heard Bai Lin Lin's voice. "Girls can't take the imperial exams. Reading is useless. You should be learning needlework, learning how to please men. Even farming is more useful than books." I entered and saw her saying these words directly to Yushan. Rage clouded my mind. She could play whatever games she liked, but she would not corrupt my daughter. I rushed forward and slapped her across the face. "What are you teaching my daughter?" Bai Lin Lin shrieked, "Why did you hit me?" I was teaching her sense. All she does is read all day, what good does that do? She'll marry someday. Needlework is what matters. My daughter may read all she pleases. What she should or shouldn't do is none of your concern. Stay away from her from now on, or I'll strike you every time I see you near her. My husband and mother-in-law had been present throughout. While Bai Lin Lin was poisoning my daughter's mind, they had watched in silence, even with apparent amusement. Now they stepped forward to condemn me. My husband shielded Bai Lin Lin, gazing with pity at her reddened cheek before turning to me in fury. "Lin Lin meant well. You're often busy and neglect your daughter's upbringing. Lin Lin was only helping you fulfill your motherly duties, and you repay her like this, like a dog biting the hand that feeds it." And what exactly was she teaching her? Do you find that acceptable? She's harming Yushan. Humph. My mother-in-law interjected, "I don't see anything wrong with what she said. What use is a girl's education? She can't win merit or earn money. She'll end up belonging to another family anyway. I say we shouldn't waste money on her books. Better she learn how to please men, then she might marry well. Lin Lin may be unlettered, but she understands far more principles than you do. She's pure and good. Yet you, as the matriarch, constantly bully a concubine. Such jealousy, you are unworthy of your position." Ever since Bai Lin Lin bore a son, my mother-in-law's favor had tilted entirely toward her. She now looked upon me with utter disdain. I let out a cold laugh. If that's the case, let her be the matriarch. Then I'll have time to teach my child and fulfill my duty as a mother. Oh, so you're trying to threaten us? You think I wouldn't dare strip you of your authority? Think the household can't function without you? Very well, if you won't manage it, then don't. Starting today, let Lin Lin take over. Since you've failed to bear a son, you won't hold this position much longer anyway. Fine. I'll hand over the account books today. The so-called power of managing the household meant rising before the roosters and sleeping later than the dogs, worrying over every minor affair, and supplementing the common coffers with one's own dowry when funds ran short. In my past life, I had been muddle-headed enough to perform this thankless labor for so long. My first act after stepping down was to take stock of my dowry. My marriage to Xinyanqing had been arranged by our parents. I had never felt any affection for him. In my previous life, when I sought a divorce, my family had warned that if I shamed them, they would cut all ties with me. Having lost my daughter, I was terrified of losing my only remaining kin. So I endured until they drove me to death. Not this time. I no longer clung to those hollow familial bonds. I would take my daughter and leave, establishing an independent household of my own. Bai Linlin's first act as matriarch was to raise the servants' wages, for she was, after all, a woman of supreme kindness. In my past life, she had urged me to add 5 taels of silver to each servant's monthly pay. The servants work so hard, and they have families to support. Their labor deserves respect. They're worth higher wages. I had refused without a second thought. Servants typically earn 2 to 5 chien of silver per month. A raise of 5 taels, over 10 times their original pay, was utterly preposterous. And yet she had spread rumors among the servants that I was miserly, harsh, and mistreated them, turning everyone against me. Now, granting each servant 5 taels, she won their adoration overnight. They praised Miss Linlin's boundless generosity. In contrast, they maligned me, their former matriarch, cursing me to remain forever neglected by my husband, never to hold power again. My husband and mother-in-law were delighted by Bai Linlin's swift victory in winning hearts. They mocked me. Lin Lin is far better at this than you. You should have stepped aside long ago. The gap between you and her is just too wide. I said nothing. Instead, I devoted myself to managing the shops I had brought as dowry. With my personal attention, business thrived and profits rolled in. Thinking of the famine that would come the following autumn, I instructed my clerks to stockpile grain in bulk and store it in my warehouses. One day, Xinyanqing stormed into my quarters. Did you touch my desk? Where have you hidden my documents? Confused, I replied, I didn't go to your study. What are you missing? Someone saw you coming from that direction today. Who else could it be? Are you still resentful that I took away your authority? Stop being petulant. Those documents are crucial, they're my way into the Crown Prince's circle. I laughed. I did pass by the study, but I never entered. However, I did see Bai Lin Lin there. Tell me, which servant saw only me and not her? Bai Lin Lin was summoned. When my husband questioned her, she admitted cheerfully, I did go to your study. Your books and papers were scattered everywhere, so I tidied up for you. Xinyanqing was beside himself. Don't you know you're not supposed to touch anything in my study? What's the big deal? They're just books and scrap paper. I had an important document tucked inside the Analects on my desk. Where did you put it? I don't know anything about your Analects or whatever. But all the scrap paper stuffed in your books, I cleared that out. Xinyanqing grabbed her. Cleared it out where? I had a servant take it to the trash heap. Ah. You stupid woman. I barely suppressed a laugh. Husband, Lin Lin meant well. She worked so hard to clean for you, how can you scold her? Look how upset she is. You're being rather ungrateful, aren't you? Bai Lin Lin wept. How was I supposed to know your study was off limits? If it's so important, why didn't you lock it? I wrote stop on the door. I can't read. Have you grown tired of me? You always said a woman's lack of education was a virtue, and that you loved me for my simplicity. Xin Yanqing's face turned ashen. You are never to go near my study again, he snarled, and rushed out. Word had it he went digging through the trash. But by then, his documents had already been carted off to the ash pits and burned. Xin Yanqing was furious with Bai Lin and refused to speak to her. I heard she went crying to my mother-in-law, who then dragged Xin Yanqing in for a scolding. What great crime has Lin committed? You know she's simple-hearted and devoted to you. She made a careless mistake, her nature isn't bad. And she's the mother of your only son, the one who'll carry on the Shin line. Stop giving her the cold shoulder. Cowed by his mother's authority, Xin Yanqing dared not snub Bai Lin any longer. Bai Lin, realizing that my mother-in-law was her shield, fawned over the old woman excessively. One day, she and I accompanied the old matriarch to the small Buddhist hall for prayers. Bai Lin gazed at the half-man-high Buddha statue and whispered to me, "The Buddha looks so dusty. It's New Year, we're all in new clothes. Surely the Buddha would like a new outfit too. Mother-in-law will be so pleased." I looked at the statue. Its clay body was cracked in places, the paint nearly all worn away. Realizing what Bai Lin intended, I felt a surge of anticipation. A few days later, chaos erupted in the manor. The old matriarch had fainted from rage. We all hurried to her quarters. She had already regained consciousness and lay on her bed, clutching her chest and wailing, "Such blasphemy! Blasphemy! The Buddha will never forgive me. It's all ruined." It turned out that on her regular day of worship, she had entered the small Buddhist hall and found the Buddha statue covered in garish, splotchy paints. Bright red rouge circles adorned its cheeks, and its lips were smeared with lipstick as crimson as blood. The colors were so vivid and jarring that even the dim little hall seemed several degrees brighter. The old lady had collapsed on the spot. "Who did this?" she shrieked with a fury unbefitting her age. Bai Lin crept out from the crowd. It was me." Xin Yanqing, seeing that she was the culprit of such a monumental disaster, demanded, "Why on earth would you do that?" Bai Lin looked wronged. The Buddha's paint was peeling. "It's New Year, I thought I'd give the Buddha new clothes too. I thought mother-in-law would be happy." She muttered under her breath, "What's there to get so angry about?" Xin Yanqing closed his eyes and pressed his forehead. "That is profound disrespect to the divine. Restoring and recoloring a Buddha image requires strict rituals and the consecration of a high monk. You defiled a sacred icon with your own hands, you've brought calamity and karmic retribution upon this house." The old matriarch was beyond coherent speech. "Wretch! Wretch! You'll be the ruin of the Shin family. You deserve death. Guards! Drag her out and beat her to death." I quickly stepped forward. "Mother-in-law, Lin meant well. How can you treat her so harshly? She's so innocent and kind, you must forgive her. She did it for your sake." My words sent the old matriarch's breathing into a frenzy. She clutched her chest, her face turning purple, her eyes losing focus, and collapsed backward. The old lady's heart condition has flared up. "Fetch the medicine." "Who pulled up the herbs in the garden? One key ingredient is missing. Make do with what's there, and bring out the ginseng from the stores." Pandemonium erupted. Because the crucial herb was missing, even the ginseng could only keep the old lady barely alive. She lay in bed, terribly weak, sleeping more than waking. Xin Yanqing began to cold shoulder Bai Lin. Even when he visited her quarters, he never stayed the night. A few days later, the manor was in an uproar again. Xin Yanqing was apparently at death's door, doctors were swarming in. The feeling was eerily familiar. I grabbed a handful of melon seeds and went to watch the spectacle. A crowd of physicians packed by Lin Lin's bedchamber. Shenyanqing lay on her bed, his robes hanging loosely, his face flushed crimson, blood streaming from his nose. His pulse suggests excessive carnal indulgence. And likely some aphrodisiac as well. But the dosage was far too strong, it's damaged his constitution. This is frankly indecent. I'm afraid he may no longer be able to perform. Shenyanqing had endured the humiliation in silence, but at those words he cried out, "What? What do you mean, no longer able to perform?" The physician's face was perfectly grave, he is no longer functional. He cannot engage in marital relations. Ah! Charlatans! I don't believe it! He drove the physicians out, then expelled me and Bai Lin Lin from the room. From Bai Lin Lin, I learned the story. Shenyanqing had been avoiding her bed. She thought he had lost his ability, so she bought an invigorating tonic from a street peddler and coaxed him into taking it. The medicine proved so potent that it permanently damaged his fundament. I snorted, then called through the door, "Husband, don't blame Lin Lin, she meant well, for your happiness. Do try to see the bright side. She's so innocent and good, who will protect her and her son if you're not here?" Within a single day, the entire city knew that Shenyanqing had become impotent due to overindulgence. The crown prince, whom he had gone to such lengths to court, now refused to see him, saying his tarnished reputation would only bring shame. Pfft. Sorry, couldn't help it. My closest friend, when Shirechi, was dining with me at a restaurant and mocking me mercilessly. I shot her a look. Laugh all you want. I'm about to divorce him anyway. If they give you trouble, come to me for help. Of course, what else are friends for? After we bantered a while, I told her about Bai Lin Lin's recent string of bizarre exploits. She rested her chin on her hand, thoughtful. She's quite a remarkable woman. To commit so many stupid acts, each one fatal, that takes a certain talent. I filed for divorce. According to our dynasty's law, if a husband favored his concubine over his wife or incurred a major disgrace, the wife could petition for divorce, and the authorities must grant it. Shenyanqing met both conditions. My petition went through smoothly, they had no grounds to refuse. The divorce is fine, but Yushan stays. She's a child of the Shen family. She'll be useful for bride price or marriage alliances in the future. You can't just take her. The law indeed did not explicitly permit a divorced woman to take her children. I traded 1/3 of my dowry to secure Yushan's custody. To take my daughter, I would have given everything I owned. Bai Lin Lin, upon learning of my divorce, came to try to persuade me otherwise. Why are you divorcing? Is it because I took over the household? I can give it back, you know. I never really wanted to manage things anyway. If you leave, I'll be so bored on my own. Looking at her earnest, slightly troubled face, I felt a strange mix of emotions. Could a person truly be this simple? In a way, her foolishness had its own fortune. Despite the havoc she had wreaked, causing Shenyanqing's impotence, she was the mother of his only son, bearer of the Shen line. They couldn't touch her. In fact, her position had only grown more secure. After the divorce, my natal family signed a formal severance. With Wen Shuichi's help, I established an independent household and ran my own shops. Life was reasonably prosperous. Spring passed, and autumn came. That summer, a great drought had parched the land. By harvest time, not 1 in 10 crops survived. A trickle of refugees became a flood as famine spread into the city. Grain prices soared. Bodies of the starved piled up like refuse. I began selling the grain I had hoarded, rationing it daily. I sold a portion at high prices to officials and wealthy merchants to recover costs, and the rest at fair prices to ordinary citizens so they too could survive. A few days later, rumors spread through the city that the Shin household had a lady by a great benefactor. She had set up a gruel kitchen outside the city walls, feeding refugees for days on end. Another few days passed, and my shop clerks told me the Shin family was liquidating their assets at bargain prices while scrambling to buy grain at any cost. What good fortune! I sent my clerks to snap up the deals, selling them grain at inflated prices and buying several of their prime shops and estates. My wealth more than doubled. One day, I had business outside the city. Passing by the gruel kitchen, I saw Bai Lin Lin with her servants dispensing porridge to the refugees. A black sea of destitute people pressed forward, gaunt, skeletal, their eyes hungry and desperate. For a moment, my feelings were complicated. Whatever Bai Lin Lin had done in the past, whatever her motives now, this act of feeding the hungry was, on its face, a kindness. Still, I was curious. Given the characters of old Madame Shen and Shin Yanqing, how had they agreed to squander such wealth on these starving paupers? I soon had my answer. A rider galloped up to the gruel stand, roughly dragged Bai Lin Lin aside, and the two began arguing. What have you done in my absence? I looked closely. It was Shin Yanqing, dusty and travel-worn, clearly just returned from a journey. Bai Lin Lin brightened at the sight of him. Husband! You're back. Wonderful, come help me serve the gruel. There are so many refugees. Shin Yanqing roared, who gave you permission to run a gruel kitchen? There are so many here, and they're all so hungry. People are starving to death. We have grain, how can we just stand by and watch? Isn't my compassion what you love about me? Shin Yanqing choked. This is a crisis. Grain is incredibly expensive. If you use up all the household stores, what will we eat? And if we have to buy more, what will that cost? Bai Lin Lin scratched her head. We used up the household stores ages ago. There were too many refugees, our grain barely lasted a few days. What? Then where are you getting the grain now? Bought it. For the past half month. Shin Yanqing staggered. What? At today's prices, and you're buying grain to feed these common vermin? Where do we have that kind of silver for you to squander? Ah. We did run short. I couldn't even pay the servants their monthly 5 taels. So I sold off the manor shops, estates, gold, and paintings, enough to buy plenty of grain. 5 taels a month for servants? Never mind that first. You sold the shops and estates? Who gave you that authority, you worthless woman? Shin Yanqing's rage overwhelmed him. All pretense of scholarly refinement abandoned, he kicked Bai Lin Lin to the ground and began pummeling her. Bai Lin Lin screamed, "Help! Why are you hitting me? I'm feeding the poor! What's wrong with that? Even if you beat me, I won't stop." The starving refugees nearby had witnessed everything. Seeing their great benefactor beaten, they surged forward in fury. Save Lady Bai. Someone's attacking her, trying to stop her from feeding us. Further back, the refugees couldn't see what was happening, but hearing that someone was obstructing the gruel, a wave of panic swept through the crowd. People surged forward, trapping Shin Yanqing in the center. They beat him for a full half hour. Bai Lin Lin clawed her way out of the chaos, scrambling away while shouting, "Stop! Stop! Someone's going to die." I suddenly had the feeling she wasn't quite as stupid as she appeared. The refugee riot claimed lives. The crowd was so vast that a stampede occurred. At the epicenter, Shin Yanqing was trampled to death on the spot. Several refugees also perished. Delighted by the spectacle, I went to drink with Wen Shueqi. "You're celebrating your ex-husband's death," He was your daughter's father, you know. All the more reason he deserved to die. He was the greatest stain on my daughter's life. I described the scene I'd witnessed. Somehow, I feel like Bai Lin isn't that stupid. Just now realizing that? I've had my suspicions ever since that aphrodisiac incident. Where did she find such a potent potion that a single dose could render a man sterile? I had my people look into her. Guess what I found? She didn't keep me in suspense, and soon told me an old story. 25 years ago, the Shin family was a crumbling wreck. Shin Ji-eun was studying in a remote county town, no rank, no money. At that time, a well-known local lady, Jiang Yao, defied her parents' fervent opposition and married him for love. For 5 years, she was virtuous, gentle, and understanding, quietly supporting him until he passed the imperial examinations. She thought their hardships were finally over. But the first thing Shin Ji-eun did after winning his rank was to bring home his mistress. Jiang Yao, who had believed in a lifetime of devotion between the two of them, was shattered. Despite her anguish, she swallowed her pride and accepted the new woman for the sake of a peaceful household, so that Shin Ji-eun could pursue his ambitions without distraction. But that concubine was ambitious beyond her station. She beguiled Shin Ji-eun into favoring her over his wife, and he divorced Jiang Yao and cast her out. That wasn't enough. The concubine, jealous of Jiang Yao's beauty, learning, and pedigree, couldn't abide her existence. The Shin family had grown far more powerful than Jiang Yao's natal house. The concubine, using the Shin name, destroyed the Jiang family root and branch. Shin Ji-eun, doting on his concubine, turned a blind eye and tacitly allowed it. Jiang Yao barely escaped with her life. Heartbroken and hunted, she tried to drown herself in the river, but a kind hunter saved her, tended her, showed her such gentle care that she was moved to give life a second chance and marry him. And yet, years later, the concubine still hadn't given up hunting her. Even in her mountain refuge, she was found. Both Jiang Yao and the hunter were killed. She paused, sipped her wine, and gave me a mysterious smile, leaning close. Guess who that concubine was? I already knew the answer. Xing Durong? Xing Durong was Shin Yanqing's mother, my former mother-in-law, the old Madame Shin. And Bai Lin is. When Xueqi didn't answer directly. Instead, she asked, "Feel like watching some fun at the Shin Manor tonight?" That night, when Xueqi's shadow guard carried me across the Shin Manor rooftops. The compound was brightly lit, but eerily silent. No one stirred. Then, in the corridor below, I spotted Bai Lin. She walked alone, carrying a red lantern, moving slowly. Her entire demeanor had transformed, the former air of simple-mindedness was utterly gone. We followed her footsteps to old Madame Xing Durong's chambers. She entered. We settled on the roof and pried up a tile, peering down through the gap at Xing Durong lying in bed. I held my breath, thrilling at the secret we were about to uncover. Footsteps sounded below. The clink of tea. Then Bai Lin appeared at the bedside. She dashed the tea from her cup into the sleeping woman's face. Xing Durong started awake, coughing. What's happening? Xiao Mei. Don't bother calling. There's no one else conscious in this house but the two of us. Xing Durong squinted, making out Bai Lin by her bed. What are you doing here? What do you mean by that? Bai Lin looked down at her from a great height. Do you have any idea what's been going on outside while you've been lying here? She leaned in, bringing her face close to the bedridden woman. Let me tell you, your son Shin Yanqing is dead. Dead? What are you saying? The old matriarch's heart shuddered. She struggled to rise but couldn't. What happened? Tell me. Bai Lin pressed a finger to her lips. Shoo. Don't rush. First, look at my face. Who do I remind you of? Xingdurong froze, staring intently at Bai Linlin. Bai Linlin usually painted her face heavily. Without the makeup, she looked like a different person. Xingdurong's voice trembled. Your face. Your face. What relation are you to Jiang Yao? Humph. Your mouth is unworthy of speaking her name. You hunted her to the death. Did you never think she might have a 5-year-old daughter? Bai Linlin's voice dripped with hatred. I've borne the blood debt since I was 5. Raised on vengeance, with only one purpose in life, to destroy the Shen family. No, impossible. My people investigated thoroughly. They had no children. I was born, but my mother rarely brought me down from the mountain. She feared for my safety. The day she died, I was ill and staying at a healer's shop. Of course you wouldn't have found me. Dr. Bai was kind. Seeing me orphaned, he kept me at the clinic as an apprentice. I bided my time until I was old enough to get close to Shenyanqing. Once inside the manor, one question consumed me: how do I kill Shenyanqing? I couldn't do it myself, that would ensnare me. The perfect plan was to use someone else's hands. A month ago, the refugees began arriving outside the city. They were terrifying, they looked ready to devour one another. I thought, what if someone were to snatch food from them? Would they fight to the death? So I fed them porridge, day after day. It cost a fortune. Oh, and do you know where I got the silver? From your house. Your gold, your paintings, your fields and shops, I sold everything of value. The Shen family fortune, gone. And I have you to thank for giving me the household authority. Xingdurong's face was ashen, her lips trembling. Villain. Why didn't anyone stop you? Where were the servants? Bai Linlin laughed softly. It was simple. I gave them 5 taels each a month, and whispered to them that you both secretly mistreated me. They were so outraged on my behalf, they believed everything I said. She continued, this morning, Shenyanqing returned. The moment he learned what I'd done, he came straight to the gruel kitchen. He yelled at me, accused me, hit me, told me to stop feeding them. The refugees wouldn't have it. Someone was trying to take their food away. When they get angry, who can stop them? They swarmed toward Shenyanqing, crushed him in the middle. He lasted a full half-hour. I imagine it was quite painful. The old matriarch, half crazed with rage, somehow forced herself upright. You venomous woman. Bai Linlin's eyes were poisoned with hate. Venomous? Xingdurong, you are the venomous one. How dare you pray to Buddha? Doesn't your conscience torment you? You killed Yanqing. What else have you done? Plenty. I pulled up the herbs meant to save your life. I defaced the Buddha statue. And guess why your medicine has been so ineffective? Because I replaced it with something else. Poisonous. Xingdurong collapsed backward, her breath coming in rasps. What are you planning now? Where is everyone else? I drugged them. Don't worry, you'll all meet on the yellow road together. What of Shao Jia? He's your son. Don't concern yourself, I sent him away long ago. Ha 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 ha. You've schemed so carefully, yet in the end, you still carry the Shen family's heir. No. Shao Jia is not Shenyanqing's child. Why would I bear a child for my enemy? I want the Shen line to end forever. Ah, but your husband had a daughter too. My earlier medicine didn't kill her, a pity. Don't worry, she'll join you soon. Every drop of Shin blood will be extinguished. At those words, fury engulfed me. She was still plotting to harm my daughter. She would not leave this place alive tonight. It struck me then, when I divorced, she had seemed genuinely earnest in asking me to stay. She had wanted me to remain, to be destroyed along with the rest. What cunning! Bai Lin tossed her lantern onto the bed. Flames quickly caught the canopy. She was burning Jingderong alive. Jingderong, now deranged, screamed, "If you destroy us, you'll never escape. The authorities will catch you." "Don't worry. The authorities will find my body and Xiao Jia's in my room, while I'll be long gone with him. No one will ever know my past." As the old matriarch howled in despair, Bai Lin stepped out of the room, locked the door from outside, and swiftly set other parts of the manor ablaze. Seeing her about to flee, I made a signal to the shadow guard. He dropped silently from the rooftop, circled behind Bai Lin, and struck the back of her neck with the edge of his hand. She crumpled. We tossed her back into the room and locked it. As the flames grew, we departed swiftly. Her story was pitiable, but I and my daughter were innocent. So were the other servants. One life in atonement was a mercy. The next morning, the city buzzed with news: the Shin mansion had burned in the night. The blaze was so fierce it reduced everything to ash. Not a single soul, master or servant, survived. Half a month later, the imperial court finally distributed grain for famine relief. The crisis was largely brought under control. The city slowly revived. I had made a fortune selling grain and now owned a slew of businesses. I had become a well-known merchant in the region. And where the Shin mansion once stood, only ashes remained. Washed by rains, soon enough wild grass would grow over the ruins, and new life would spring forth. The story is now complete. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe and support me.